Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Good morning, everybody. Cowboy here. It is June the 11th at 5:20. I'm sorry. What is that? 8:28 a.m. PPI data comes out in just 2 minutes. So we're going to take a look at that. I went ahead and started a little bit early today so we can look at it on a very low time frame. We'll look at it on the 1-minute chart and see how that data affects the charts. I'm going to go ahead also and look at this data, the actual data that comes off, give me 1 second, on a different screen. That way I can read it out to you as we see this go on. So this is the 1-minute chart. Each one of these candles is 1 minute's worth of type action. The PPI is an inflation metric. We had the CPI yesterday that was arguably, that the CPI is almost always going to be a bigger metric. And we had the year over year and the month over month. The month over month was actually supposedly disinflationary, where it was under the target, right? It was slightly under the inflation estimation that we thought we would see, which was 0.3%. Now, the year over year was at the target, so it was relatively unremarkable from a numbers standpoint. But now, just in 5 seconds, we're supposed to see what the data is for the PPI. I see price moving around quite a bit. Going to delete that line. Okay, so this is going down. Apparently, this is dollar strong news. Data still pending, so I'm not able to see. Okay, yeah, not able to see it just yet. Let me refresh the data screen. See if okay. It looks like the PPI was a cool print, the core PPI, and that's instead of 0.5% estimated as 0.4. The month over month PPI for just the non-core, the standard one, actually was a warm print. So it was a little bit more inflationary than expected. So instead of 0.7%, we got 1.1%. So what does all this mean? PPI is producer price index. So this is the inflation that producers see, arguably downstream. That means that the retail, those of us who are consuming and not producing, will end up paying more. So the high print there doesn't seem to be, it's kind of a mixed print between yesterday and today. So I don't think it's going to affect the markets all that much. So far, NASDAQ hasn't really done anything. If I look at the euro, it hasn't really done much. It's popped up just a little bit. So I don't think there's really much going on here with this PPI today. I think the big news was yesterday. And quite frankly, I think the big news is tomorrow, right? So we'll talk a little bit about what's coming as per the title of the show, right? So that this, the data coming out, not that big a deal. What is a big deal is the SpaceX IPO. So I'm going to bring up an article that I shared with V and the boys last night. V and Gus and CJ et al. We have our little private chat. Velas is in there. And let me go ahead and paste that up here. And this talks about a potential. It doesn't mean this is going to happen, but this is a potential of what may happen as a result of the IPO that happens tomorrow. So there's a $1.77 trillion IPO for SpaceX, right? Now, the person who wrote this is at 0x Reflection over on X. And it says here, he's been trading for over a decade, never seen them rewrite the rule book like this. NASDAQ, MSCI, and the biggest brokers in America all bent their own rules for one private company. That doesn't happen by accident. Let me show you exactly what they did. First, Fidelity dropped its minimum account size from 500,000 to 2,000. That's a 99.6% cut. Think about that. The most exclusive door on Wall Street, thrown wide open to millions of small investors days before the biggest debut in history. Ask yourself one question. Why do they suddenly want you in? Okay, let's back up. What this means is that an IPO, an initial public offering, is when a stock first gets listed and you get to buy it for that listing, right? So what usually happens with IPOs is only sophisticated investors are allowed in, and they're allowed in this case, a $500,000 minimum. That's the minimum amount you can put into the IPO. And there are qualifications also. Usually you have to be a sophisticated investor, which means that you either have to have a certain amount of net worth, or you have to be part of some programs, or, there's a lot of different, there are a few different metrics. I don't think there's a lot. So, with that said, it's not easy to get in. Well, now they're just letting anybody with 2 grand in, basically, right? So they're bringing in a lot of money into an IPO that you normally doesn't get to be in an IPO, and they're having a valuation of 1.75 trillion dollars, 1.77 to be precise, and that is kind of interesting considering that their plan is to put data centers in space, which there are a lot of technical problems with that. I think that's not their only plan, but a lot of us feel that that valuation is inflated, and they're going to bring it into NASDAQ like immediately. Now, it does take time. I think it takes 15 weeks to actually hit NASDAQ, or is it 15 days? There's more to this, but long story short, usually companies have to be profitable for several years before they're even allowed to be part of the NASDAQ, right? You got to understand that. So it says SpaceX reserved 30% of the deal for retail. That's 3 times the normal share. They really want retail in. Even then, most people didn't get a full allocation. So to grab more at Thursday's open, they're dumping everything else today to raise cash. So it was open today. I thought it was tomorrow. The other half, the smart money, is front running July. Here's the trick. Here you go. This explains it. SpaceX doesn't join the NASDAQ 100 on day one. It joins 15 days later because NASDAQ they cut its own waiting period from 3 months to 15 days. Just for this. The moment it joins, every QQQ fund on Earth is forced to buy. 22 to 27 billion in automatic buying. Translation: imagine 50 buses are all forced to pull into the same gas station on the same morning. The funds know the stampede is coming, so they're selling now to free up cash for it. Retail selling, institutions, all at the same time. That's the sell-off in the NASDAQ, right? So the sell-off in the NASDAQ was for people to basically get money, people and companies, to buy SpaceX. Now here's the part that nobody will say out loud. When the most connected money on the planet builds a $1.7 trillion exit door and hands the keys to the smallest investors in the market, that's not generosity, that's distribution at the top. We've seen it twice: 2000.com, 2021 SPAC mania. Insiders cash out at insane valuations while the crowd chases the hype. Math ain't mathing. So you got 2 choices in the next 48 hours: chase the most expensive IPO in history at the open, or read the prospectus and realize you might be the exit. The next few days will be insane, but don't worry, I'll break down every move as it happens, as I always do. Like it or not, I called every major top and bottom of the last decade publicly. I'll call this one too. Many people are going to wish they followed me before June 12th, 2026. Soon you'll understand why. Okay, so what he's saying is that the regular person, retail, will be the exit liquidity. That's what they're saying. They're saying that IPO happens, money pumps up, smart money exits when it goes up, retail gets left holding the bag. Now, if that's the case, then as far as I'm concerned, they're looking for a way to get rid of Elon. I mean, it might not be the main goal to get rid of Elon, but if that happens, and if people get left holding SpaceX as a garbage stock, like price-wise, yeah, sure, maybe it'll go up one day, but you'll have, I mean, if that's the case, you're looking at some major issues there. Now, of course, being part of the NASDAQ, you will have most likely companies and 401ks and, buying into it, and eventually it goes back up later. And hopefully they can do it sooner rather than later, because the longer they take to do it, the bigger trouble that people are going to be in. It's going to be a big deal. So that's that. I'll take a quick look at the NASDAQ now that we've talked about what's happening, because the next few days really are concerning, like just based on what we read right now. So do understand that. Right now, the NASDAQ is bearish, and it kind of followed that bungling path that I talked about, but it looks like it is going to continue down. Your next spot where price can go, let me zoom out a little bit, make it easier for you guys to see. This is the same chart that I drew for the weekly update. So the next spot down is what is this, October 2025 highs. So on the way up, you had an all-time high in October of 25, and then it just slid down until March of 2026 and then started melting up. And I imagine that had to do with, I don't know, Iran or something. Who knows? But that's the next place for this to go, is right there. Okay, so that may happen, but all of the IPO and everything that happens like in the next 2 days. So it may be that the selling's over and this just gets crammed right back up. It's really difficult to actually use the charts right now to predict a whole lot of anything. Um, this next few days is going to be the scalpers market. There will need to be the ability to, or day traders really, there will be the need to identify a trend. You need to be able to identify which way price is going before you start playing in this game. Let's take a look at what time the IPO happens. What time will the SpaceX IPO happen? What date? Question mark. Looking on Gemini here. Let's see what it says. Excuse me, I got a little sinus issue. It's allergies, time of year, whatever. So Friday, June 12th. Okay. Final official price and share allocations being finalized tonight, Thursday, June 11th. Expected to lock in a pre-determined fixed price of $135 per share. The time, brokers like Fidelity will require final order confirmations tonight, usually after 7 p.m. Eastern or 4 p.m. Pacific, once SEC declares the registration effective. The ticker goes live Friday morning, June 12th. The NASDAQ will open up the order book for market makers to match buy and sell orders. Historically, for mega caps, stock will likely open for public trading sometime between 11:30 a.m. Eastern and 1:30 p.m. Eastern. So tomorrow, Friday, might be freaking wild. It might even be like so wild that it's hard to trade. With the target raise of 75 billion and an implied valuation of 1.75 trillion, it's officially tracking to be the largest IPO in the world history. Yeah, I'd be real careful trading. I might not even trade on Friday. I might just take Friday kind of off, because the spikes and everything, it'd be very unpredictable. Next couple days, our PPI data has come out. So let me go back to the chart we were looking at before. And that's not really affecting much at the moment. And I get the feeling that markets are going to get really still until this is through. And it may be that there's not much in the way of trading next couple of days. I mean, unless you're like one of those, wild traders that, trades all the little moves of volatility, if you're a volatility trader, something like that. That's another story. Like if you're riding those choppy waters, then good luck to you. I will, if I see a trade form up, then I will cautiously take it, right? So it might be a way to make a ton of money if it's very directional. It might be a way to lose a ton of money if it's not. So for me, it would have to be a solid trend that forms for me to even be interested in this. Okay. And this will affect everything. Bitcoin, you name it. Speaking of Bitcoin, here is the look, and this will be what I do before I go to the private live lab here. Give me a moment. Yeah, Bitcoin just doing kind of what I said, right? Grinding with these pullbacks. So, but instead of upward, it's actually just sideways. So that's all we got on Bitcoin. I don't have much to talk about on the corn. The corn. I think we're just looking at the beginning of the bear. So, I think it'll go sideways and downward. Eventually it will go. But this week, as I predicted, it's just kind of staying in the liquidity zone, right? Not much to talk about on there. If I had taken a long, I would be in profit, but I just don't think it's worth the risk to take that long with what's going on in the markets the next couple of days. I think money will drain out. Even though it kind of wants to go up, I think money will drain out. So either way, thank you all for watching. I'm going to be back on Tuesday, 8:30 a.m. EST for this live show. Also, you might want to go ahead, look in the link, look in the description, click the link, get the free algo. You get a free algo. It's really cool. You see me build an algo. I show you tools traders use, connect it to their broker so it can trade for them when they're not sitting at the computer. And while that is all awesome and free, all you got to optimize it. You can't just plug it into your broker, right? You got to optimize it. We teach you how to do that. All of that sales pitch having been said, going to that video will also put you on a mailing list where I will send you market updates every Monday and a newsletter. Every Monday, like provided that I'm not sick or something happens, right? So it's usually pretty darn good as a market forecast tool, right? It's often more right than it is wrong, that's for sure. And that's the only thing you can ask for in trading. Like nobody ever gets it all right. For those of you who are new to like trading and markets, nobody gets it right all the time. You're basically a trading god if you get it right like 75% of the time. So, and I think we're around those lines. We're doing really well on those. So check that out. I will email you the newsletter, and of course, it'll attach you to the Monday video I make. So in the meantime, come to algofactory.tech, learn how to trade like a hedge fund pro, and do not forget.
Join us or die.
Just kidding. You're not going to die. We love you.